Okay, should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. Welcome to live webinar with Emily Ong. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Iza, and I will be hosting this live Zoom session with Emily from Singapore, where she will be talking about rehabilitation and quality of life from perspective of a person with dementia. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping notes. Today's session is being recorded to be available for viewing at our Instagram. If you have any questions for the speaker, please use the chat feature in the Zoom webinar, or you can use your microphone to ask a question after this session. And now I'm glad to welcome our special guest, Emily. Emily, if you don't mind, would you like to tell us about yourself and how have you been? And after that, you can start your session by sharing your screen to us.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Selamat pagi, everybody. Yeah. I'm Emily, a person living with young onset dementia, and I'm a very strong advocate in Singapore here, and also now in regional and global. And I was diagnosed with dementia in 2017. And before that, I do have issue, but I never could figure out that I was having cognitive impairment. So, roughly is I'd like to let you know that I am very happy that I'm invited to share what I'm going through, and then to talk about things that I have done for myself that have helped me to continue to maintain my independence and my social my functioning. Yeah. So I actually am a Malaysian. I'm still a Malaysian, and I stay very near to you people. I'm from Sarawak, and so I just told I just said that I would like to use some Malay. So, but my Malay now is quite rusty because after staying 10 years in Singapore, I hardly use my Malay. So today I will try to use my Malay. Okay. So I will use a bit here and there. Yeah. So let me start the screen share. So we have more time to have Q&A. So can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so this morning I will be talking about rehabilitations and quality of life, because that is very important. And but other than that, I'll be covering other small topics, like living with dementia and the stigma, and before I touch on rehabilitations. So a little bit of introduction about me. But before I introduce, let me introduce the piece of photography done by a person living with dementia. His name is Rob, and Rob is a person living with young onset dementia. Yeah, and he loves photography, and this is his work. So you can see throughout my slide, I do use work done by people living with dementia as a way to let people know that people living with dementia can still do many things, despite there are things that we are having difficulty with, but there are still a lot of things that we can do. So, well, I am a board member of Dementia Alliance International. This is a global organization with a HQ in registered in United States, and it is all over the world. And it is one organization whereby it is set up for people living with dementia by people living with dementia. So we basically run the organization by ourselves with support from volunteers in the field of accounts to help us with the finance, and then secretary work, which is all part and parcel of the organizations whereby you need to do all those reporting. So that one we will have a professional volunteer to assist us. And then also a member of the Alzheimer's Disease International as part of a member of the Global Review Board, whereby it is the first initiative of ADI to look into accreditations, and so that training partners, organizations like colleges, nursing college or anything that do give training on caregiving training will have a standardized high quality dementia care. And then I'm also a member of WHO Global Dementia Observatory, whereby I'm on the focus group member where we review research papers or anything that people submit to WHO so that they can share on the GDO platform. And recently, I just set up a group called a special interest group under the Dementia Alliance umbrella. It's called the Environment and Dementia, because I believe that there is more needs to be done to the environment, because the environment affects the way person living with dementia experience the condition. So today, the topics that I will be covering will be on diagnosis and living with dementia, stigma and impact. But my main focus of today's topic will be on rehabilitations and quality of life. And then I will touch very lightly on the United Nations Convention of Rights of Persons Living with Disability. So first, when we talk, I was diagnosed with dementia in 2017. After an episode that nobody would believe, like I call it the French toast French toast incident, whereby it is making French toast is something that I have been making since my children were very small. But for that particular morning, I just don't know how to make French toast, except for I know that I need a loaf of bread. And I have no recollection that I have made it before, but I do have that feeling inside me that, that it is that feeling of saying that I know, but my brain said, no, you have no recollection of making this before. So there is a disconnection between the emotional side of the emotion part of the brain and then the intellectual part of the brain. Yeah. So, and that started my diagnosis journey. Now, because I am the young onset, that means people who are living with dementia, but before the age of 65 are considered as young onset. So the youngest people diagnosed with young onset so far in Singapore is people who are in the late 20s. Yeah. So you can see that the age range of young onset is very huge, from early 20s, or late 20s, all the way to before 65. Yeah. So because of that, it made the diagnosis of dementia rather difficult, because and I was misdiagnosed dua kali, and first one is I was diagnosed with fatal familial insomnia, because I do have the symptoms of not able to sleep, and what you call my sleep. My sleep situation was not good, because I have problem in falling asleep and staying asleep. So I can stay awake throughout the 24 hours. Yeah. So then, though I do perform very badly in my MOCA test, and so I failed consecutively in my MOCA test from 20. I start with 25 upon 30, and then by the time it was the third test, I dropped all the way to 17 upon 30, which showed that I have a serious enough condition of cognitive impairment. But because I'm very young, so my first neurologist is it didn't cross his mind that I might have dementia, and So he just what you call diagnosed me with fatal familial insomnia, which is also a form of a neurodegenerative disease. Yeah, so then after that, I was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer and was on a medication also. But then the lumbar puncture come back and the MRI scan come back and show that I don't have towels, I don't have tangles, and that medications had to be removed gradually. So one thing about young onset is that memang susah diagnose karena we don't have this, not necessary we will have memory issue. So bagi saya is my executive function is deteriorating. It's not good. So for example, like planning, multitasking, paying focus, attention focus, and flexibility. So these are the things that that is affecting me. It's not so much of my memory. But then most of the doctors are familiar with Alzheimer, and that is to do with memory. So if you don't have memory, it is very hard for the doctor to diagnose you and take, accurately, because other there is not so, they are not so well trained in other forms of dementia. Yeah, so typical people with young onset, their diagnosis journey is very long to get a diagnosis, and normally it can be 3 to 5 years, and this is global. So when but luckily for me, my diagnosis is quite fast, because my daughter was a medical student back then. When she noticed that I was not able to do something that I had been doing, like cooking, for so long, and that is a very strong indication that is something not right with the cognitive cognitive ability. Yeah, so the grief is there. Memang susah for we young onset to accept that the diagnosis, because it is something that you are least expected, because we all we sort of understood it as a elderly issue, not people who are still in the working age. But because I was working in disability, so it doesn't hit me so hard as compared to other people that I later on come to know in my advocacy work, that some people cannot take it and they goes into depression. Yeah. And then the post-diagnostic support, the PDS services is not there to support people living with young onset dementia. And all the community services is also not suitable, because it caters more for the senior with dementia. So there is a big gap in the PSD services. And then untuk family, of course, is a huge blow to the family, and also a lot of adjustment need to be made. And there is certain things that I used to do, like I'm macam itu finance minister of the family. Sekarang I cannot do that, and my family, my younger daughter had sorts of take over that role, and so that I no need to do things that is too much for me to handle. Yeah. So there is always this adjustment, because living with dementia is, the changes is ongoing, and it is you don't really have something like you can say, okay, this is the changes, and we have found a way to live with it already, and you stay put there. It's not, because the degeneration, the neurons is dying in the brain, and that's something that you cannot stop, and it will affect your ability. And so this change is always there, is and then it's an ongoing thing. That's why it's called, it's a terminal, progressive, and life-limiting condition. So as a person living with dementia, you really need to find your courage and then find hope again, and have to look life in a new perspective, and you have to find a new purpose for your life. So that is something that very hard for an individual to do if the individual does not have a very strong personality. So that is so a lot of support need to be given to people living diagnosed with dementia. So for the stigma, I would like to play this very short video clip. It's a project that I do to create material by people living with dementia. So let's let you people hear the conversation on the stigma.
There are stigma in all societies, and people feel, first of all, that there's a misunderstanding that people with dementia are old people, number one, and that they are also showing symptoms more of Alzheimer's, and they feel that people with dementia has no more capabilities, that we are crazy, we talk rubbish, we are unable to move, unable to feed ourselves, and like nearly totally incapacitated, not only physically but mentally disruptive.
To me, it's like that I don't want to associate to you.
As far as I know, stigma is, well, as the word stigma is something that is stuck onto us.
Yes.
Based on people's impression, rightly or wrongly, of our, well, first, our behavior, right? Rightly or wrongly, whether our behavior to them is good or bad, or well, acceptable or unacceptable.
Yes.
And being as a stigma, it means that they don't see us in a very good light, right?
Yes.
It's,
yeah.
We are normal, maybe not exactly abnormal, but not what they expect of a normal.
Yeah, so that is that is something about a project that I am starting to have, is getting people living with dementia to create a documentation, a documentary video whereby they can talk about dementia from their perspective. And you can see that when we talk about stigma from the people living with dementia, it really impacts us a lot, because the way the society see dementia as people living with dementia as not able to do things, and that really shakes the confidence of the person, and also the self-worth and self-esteem. So many people who are not of strong character, unlike these three that was featured in this video, they are very strong character. So they will start to question their own ability and learn the helplessness and acquire access this ability, because they will feel that they are not capable, so they will let their family members or anybody to decide for them, to do things for them. And this is create that access this ability that has nothing to do with the dementia condition as per se. So like what I said, my focus today is to talk about rehabilitations And why I want to talk about rehabilitation is that when we talk about the quality of life for people living with dementia, most of the time is that we talk about how we can provide the care for person living with dementia, make sure that they are what you call have the food, they are well looked after and things like that. But there's a big part of the quality of life for us that sometimes it is overlooked. That is the ability to do things for ourselves. And that maintaining that independence and that dignity as a person is something overlooked by most care partners during their caregiving for their loved one, and also by healthcare professionals. So rehabilitation is something that is very important, because we know that a key features of living with dementia is the functional decline in our ability. So rehabilitation is one way of what you call getting us to be able to do things again, and to mengekalkan fungsi dan kebolehan supaya orang dengan demensia dapat hidup bersama dengan keluarga, age in their own home and in their own community. And then you also, with rehabilitation, when it's done, it also helps to reduce the chance of rehospitalizations and promote that independence. So, but one thing that you need to understand is that with rehabilitation is unlike the traditional rehabilitations that you understood, whereby people are able to go back to their former stage of performance. But when it's coming to dementia, because it's a declining functioning ability, and with the neurons dying, it is not possible to go back, even with rehab, to their former stage of ability. So that is one thing that care partners and person living with dementia need to understand. It is more like, we finding mencari cara yang baru untuk melakukan sesuatu dengan bypassing the deficit and impairment. So that is what rehabilitation for orang dengan dementia is about. It is never about going back and be at that level of performance, but finding a new way to bypass the cognitive impairment that is brought on because of the underlying diseases, like whether is it Alzheimer, whether is it vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia, and all the other types of dementia. Yeah, so now the rehabilitations is what you call, it's more about the behavior change, and intervention, which is based on the understanding of what the person can still do, and then to address it, and then to overcome the impact of the impairment. So there are a few aspects that we need to look into when we talk about the quality of life for people living with dementia. So these are the support that need to be provided in terms of the cognitive function, communication, everyday living activities, mobility, and physical function. So I will stop to share this one for a while, and because the slide will be the same, and I just want to talk to you about how each one of these is to be. Now, when we talk about dementia, we talk about that the person is losing the cognitive ability. So, but then cognitive ability is something that is very important for you to continue functioning. So So when we want to help someone living with dementia to maintain that connection for a longer time, that is where you need to provide these cognitive rehabilitations. Now, cognitive rehabilitations have few types, and one type that is very commonly used throughout all dementia center in all dementia care is cognitive stimulation, whereby you provide games like puzzle, bingo, and things like that, to help the person living with dementia to continue to engage the brain. So that is what you call it is more focused on the that aspect of attention. When you play games, when you play bingo, it's on attention and things like that. So it's on different aspects depending on the game, like solving puzzle and putting the puzzle together. That is problem solving. So you targeted a specific cognitive ability that you want to help the orang dengan dementia to sustain, to maintain it for a longer period. Then the same thing is you have reminiscent therapy, where you use the reminiscent things like what the things that they used to be able to do and things like that, photograph or hobby, and then or food, to help them to connect and have a conversation. So that is more on the social aspect of the life for people living with dementia, to be able to masih berinteract dengan orang lain with a topic. So, but there is two aspects of cognitive rehabilitation that is seriously lacking, and one of them is called the reality orientation, whereby we tend to forget that people living with dementia still need to know the day and the time where they are, and we seldom emphasize on that. It is very important for us to know, okay, today is hari Ahad, bulan September, tahun berapa. So we only get question, what is the year today? Which floor are you in? Do you know where you are? Bila kita pergi ke klinik, baru dapat have this chance of being asked. And then suddenly the orang dengan dementia will say, huh? Because that at home, nobody will ask bukan that find out what is the day today and things like that. We don't talk about it because we just assume that person living with dementia dah already tak ingat, don't want to make it more susah for the ODD, to ask them question like this. But it is very helpful to get us to know the reality of the day, sekarang pukul berapa, now it's going to get ready for sembahyang and things like that. That is part of life, and that is very important. That is something that we need to have. And but the other things that I like to talk about is the cognitive rehabilitations in terms of functional ability, like to be able to continue to do things for yourself. Like, for example, I suka masak and baking. So when my neurologist advised me for safety reason not to cook, but to go for food catering or have someone come over to cook for the family, it was just, oh my God, I said, tak boleh ni, because it is a role that I very meaningful bagi saya. So to take it away from me is just like to take a huge part of who I am as a person. So that is that ability to do, whether is it IADL or AGL, and maintain it for a very long time is very important for people living with dementia. So what can you do in this kind of situation? So unfortunately, it is currently not being used or don't have, because normally in situation like that, coming to cognitive rehabilitation, you cannot engage occupational therapy to do it together with the person living with dementia. But not everybody can access to occupational therapy. Mala is very expensive to have an occupational therapy work with you every day. So that is something that I felt that it is so important that everybody having access to it, and care partners also can learn on how to support orang dengan demensia. So when I come across this great program, project that was done by Professor Linda Clay from the University of Exeter in UK, I translate her project into something to help myself to maintain my functional ability, and that means that I can still do cooking and baking safely, and I can go and take public transport on my own and learn things that I will not be able to. Like when I was newly diagnosed, I was having struggle with reading. My working memory is not good, so I cannot hold the information long enough. So I read satu paragraph, move to the next paragraph, I tak ingat yang previous paragraph. What is the content I read? So I will go back to read first paragraph. So you can see that I can never get past first page because I can never remember. So then I come up with a way that whenever I want to read a book, just even an article, and I will need to write, and I need to read it out. So I use many of my senses to help me to retain the information so that I can enjoy reading again. So these are the things what we call is cognitive rehabilitation. And it is very person-centered, whereby the person who is living with dementia get to say, what is the things that I want to continue to be able to do, which is memang bermakna and very important to me. So the person living with dementia will tell you. But if in situation whereby the person living with dementia is not able to tell you because they have moved on to moderate stage or moderate late stage, then as a care partner, you have to be more observant, and through different activities, you try to gauge and see the expression on the face of the person and see whether, this is what the person wants to be able to do. So, so then that is a goal to be set. So it has to be something that really, really important, so that there is this intrinsic motivation, because a huge part of the cognitive rehabilitation therapy is it has to be intrinsically motivated from the person. So orang itu memang benar-benar want to do it. So that they will always continue to do, because it requires that repeated action of doing it until the person is able to create a new pathway in the brain to do things differently. So misalnya for my cooking, dulu I can just cook like that, cut the ingredient, chop the ingredient, throw in, masak and things like that. Tapi sekarang saya tak boleh. So saya kalau cook one dish, I have to have all the ingredient, put it on the table. Mata boleh tengok apa itu ingredient, and then get all the all the bowl, small bowl, all get ready, container all get ready, and then chop all the thing and put it and arrange it in the sequence yang saya akan guna dan masuk dalam kuali. Kalau tidak, I will masak without minyak, and that is where I burn all my pots and pans. So it had to arrange in a way, in an order that I will use it. So these are the different way of how you cope with your cognitive impairment, but you don't let the cognitive impairment stop you from doing something that you enjoy doing it. So now I can still continue cooking because, you know, I put all this strategy in place. Macam dengan handling sharp knife, you know, pisau and all the kitchen scissor, peeler. I will have a separate container on the left-hand side because I in right hand, dominant right hand. So after I use the knife or scissor or sharp thing, I will transfer and put it over my eye and then across my body to the other side. So in a way, I'm telling my brain that I'm handling sharp knife. So it's across. So that is how I try to minimize the risk of getting myself cut or forgetting that I'm handling knife and things like that. So these are the things that we can put in place so that the person living with dementia can still do the thing. So let me go back to the slide show again. So then we have this so this is cognitive function. Komunikasi is very important. So when it comes to komunikasi, you have to find ways of how to support the person so the person can continue to have conversations with you. And some of the things that you can do is that, you know, to have a conversation is, you know, have a memory book for the person, and then to have what you call, if the person is not able to have articulation, speech production, so you have picture card to get the person to interact with you. Then for the mobility and physical function, then you will have to focus on how do you prevent the fall in the person, and also balance is very important. And how do you keep the balance when you are doing two things at a go? Because in everyday life, we don't do subtle thing at one time. We will do things together, two things at one time. For example, when I eat, I don't just pick up the food and put inside my mouth, but I will also eat at the same time. I will get distracted by, because I'm talking to you and things like that. So this is one thing. Or when I walk, I will also see things. So how do I keep my balance? So, and then the physical exercise is not just about walking, but it has to be a mix of exercise, like aerobic, strength exercise, coordination exercise. That is very important. Yang untuk everyday life activity, put in place all the assistive technology, and then like what you call visual cues in the environment, labeling and simplify the task. Those are very important to enable ODD to continue to be able to do things. And then functional exercise, that is very helpful for everyday living activity. Functional exercise is do the exercise that is similar to how you will do your daily activity. Like, for example, you want to carry something, that postural changes and lifting the thing is called a functional exercise. So next, I will just touch lightly on the United Nations of People Living with Dementia. For us, it is very important that the health coverage covers also on the diagnosis, and let the person living with dementia to know that he or she is living with some kind of cognition decline, and then they are accessible to all kinds of therapy interventions, and not just medical medications, but also other non-pharmacological support. These are parts of the rights of the person living with dementia. So for my advocacy work, this is my mission, and I focus a lot on dementia education, like what just now I say, material made by people living with dementia to raise awareness of dementia, supporting others to live positively through my initiative of peer-to-peer support group, which is something that Dementia Alliance International we do to support for people living with dementia, be the voice for other people, and then our regional collaboration and sharing resources, something that I do like what I'm doing now, and then to increase the Asian presence in the global platform, because in the worldwide there are a lot of representations of people living with dementia from the European country, but we need to have more people from our region to stand up, to step up and talk about it, so that there will be more research done and more understanding because of our cultural differences. So not everything that is done and applicable in the dementia care in the Western country is applicable here directly in our Asian culture. These are my initiatives. The Lakopi Limte session is peer-to-peer support group. The HIO project is people living with dementia resource production. My conversation is part of that. And things that I am still working on is to come up with a YOD guide to support people living diagnosed with dementia. How do you go around it? And then the community-based support is an ongoing thing, and where I work with community partners, including Ministry of Health and other NGOs also. So this is knowing is not enough. We must apply. The willing is not enough, but we must do. So thank you again for having me here.
Thank you, Emily, for that excellent talk. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Now, Emily will answer some questions that were sent to us during the talk. So the first question is, Emily, what is your advice to our youth today when they experience young onset within their family circle and way of supporting them on day-to-day life?
Okay, that is a good question. Now, if you do have family members that is diagnosed already with young onset, then you try your best to put in place what are the things that the person can still do, get to know what the person ability is still have, the remaining abilities. And then after that, you see what are the things that is required to put in so that the person can do the thing most all by themselves, or if supported, minimal support. Now, what about if the person that you are living with still don't yet have the proper diagnosis of dementia or young onset? Then you need to be to put in place also, to see how is the thing affecting the decline in the performance, affecting them, and try to persuade them to go and see the GP and let them share with the GP of what are the changes that's been happening for them. Yes, because for young onset, it is not easy for us to go and see a neurologist without referral. I'm not sure how is it done in Brunei, but all over the world is that if you are senior, then you have more opening to go and see what you call to get your diagnosis, because you have memory clinic, you have a geriatrician, and then you have GP that will recommend you to go for a diagnosis. But for young onset, in Singapore and in most part of the world, is that we need the referral from the GP to make, so that only then we can go and see Pakasaraf. So, but then the GP are not well trained in most cases to identify the young onset. Yeah.
Another question May I know what is your advice to a person that is being newly diagnosed with dementia? What kind of motivation that you can give them?
Yeah, the most important thing is that please don't start to take over the person's life. Still give that person the confidence that he can do or she can do. Like for example, making a cup of drink. Kita will say that, I'm simple, I'm making cup of drink, let me make the drink for you. But the minute you do that, you are telling the person that he or she kerana sekarang have dementia, tak mampu buat. So just let the person make. And if you scared that the person will make the drink either too hot or to handle or too sweet, too much sugar and things like that, you put all the thing in the in place. Like for example, if it's coffee and sugar and things like that, put in that sequence, and then with all the sudu or the spoon size that you want the person to use all there, so that the person want copy then tablespoon ka or teaspoon ka already there, so the person will know how much to get. So these are the things that that you can help to continue to maintain that confidence, that I masih boleh buat. I masih boleh help myself to do things. So that is the most important thing that you can do. And when you are able to consistently do that, you are motivating the person to learn to do more for that person. And he or she will say, macam mana I want to go up by myself, take bus. So how do I do that? So you come in and support. Maybe, let's go through a bus number apa, take a photo of the bus number so that the person tak payahlah ingat dalam bus number apa bus number. Tapi ada foto kan. So he or she can hold on to that photo while waiting for the bus at the bus stop to see what bus is coming. And then landmark, bila kena turun, bila press the bell and things like that. So these are the things you can help to put in place. So the person has that confidence, I masih boleh keluar jalan-jalan, tak payah selalu, had to be accompanied by someone. Yeah.
Next question. For the cognitive rehabilitation session, example goal of baking or cooking, can you share what it involved, duration, what is in each session?
I see. Okay, this is something that I will talk more on it, because it is a session needs to be on its own, because you as a care partner, or if you are orang dengan dementia, I will need to go through with you how do you do it. It is very simple. It's just like you need to identify your goal. What is the one thing that you want? It means a lot. You must want to, you really want to continue to be able to do. And then after that, you list down what are the ability you still have, or orang yang you sayang tu dengan dementia still have able to do. And then to do that task, like for example, making a cup of coffee, apakah task skill required from start to completion? So you list it down, all the ability that required. So then you match, okay, yang orang dengan demensia ada skill ini. Untuk membuat secawan kopi adalah skill required ialah ini. Jadi you tengok ada matching tak matching. Kalau tak matching, apa yang tak ada dalam skill set orang dengan demensia. So the one that is missing, that is where you need to put an external strategy where to compensate for that missing or declining ability. So you put that in. So that is roughly an idea of cognitive rehabilitation, but it has to be continued on. It takes a long time for the brain to rewire the way it is to be done. Because normally kita bukan, when you want to make secawan kopi, you just say, alah secawan kopi saja. You don't need all this strategy. But for orang dengan dementia, it is more. It is a lot of steps involved, and a lot of connection involved. So if that retraining of the brain to do things differently will takes a huge amount of time. So that consistency is very important. Yeah.
Emily, before COVID happened, do you go out? If you do you always have another person with you?
Okay. No, I am most of the time on my own. I'm very independent person. so I do get lost, especially in because I use bus and I use MRT, and we during the when you come to bus interchange or MRT interchange, I do get confused because there are many people around, and when there is lots of noise and many people and all the announcement is too much for me. My brain not able to what you call work in very noisy area. So I do get lost, and I do take the wrong bus, wrong train, wrong direction. Yeah. So and then become disoriented, and then anxiety. Yes, but that didn't stop me because my family have full confidence that I boleh buat and travel on my own. So when I make mistake or when I get lost, so I will try to ask people around me to help to direct me to go to the correct bus or correct platform for the MRT. And if I cannot find somebody to help me, of course lah, I SOS my family members lah, telefon mereka. I sekarang ni lost lah, macam mana nak get back to the house ke or to a destination. But normally is, kalau saya nak pergi ke destination yang baru, yang saya tak familiar. So what I do is my anak will go through the direction with me, what bus to take, and then we will take a photo of the bus route, and then what are the landmarks saya kena tengok. Dan itu tengah bus lah boleh tengok, tapi tengah MRT you tak boleh tengok because it's either high up in the air or underground, dak gelap-gelap macam mana. Jadi tengok itu station lah, berapa station, after that you need to come out and things like that. So that preparation before you go for a trip on your own is very important. Yeah.
And any suggestion of how to incorporate reality orientation into daily activities for caregivers other than having a visible calendar or clock?
So you start with your incorporate into your daily routine, like morning, mak sarapan kan. Then you just say that, you ask the person living with dementia, yeah, today is another bright day, and today, which day, Then you just don't give the answer, but just to create that, initiate that conversation, and then you can say, is it Thursday or is it Saturday? Then the person will just say, and then after that, that is one way. So you always find that for any things that you want to incorporate, you make sure that the intervention is part of the daily routine, so that it becomes part and parcel of life for the person living with dementia. So the person living with dementia will have that habit to go and look at the visual calendar if you have. Like for me, I every morning, mesti first thing wake up, check my phone, so they look at my calendar, today is what day. And then after that, every now and then, throughout the day, I will go to my visual calendar, double check lagi ini day correct atau tak correct. I get the correct day or not, because most of the time I don't get my day correct. I thought that today is hari Rabu, but when it's not Rabu. Yeah, so that make it as a hobby, not hobby pula, make it as a routine that, as part of the of living. The person will constantly go and check the day, and then you make it as a when you sit down for sarapan or when you want to get ready for your prayer, and not just reinforce that, now Bapak, Mak, sekarang now prayer time already, Isha or Maghrib or what, then you just mention it. So then the person that, oh yes, yes.
Who do you resort to when you experience any kind of stressful situation? Is there any counseling services given to you?
No, as I because for for young onset, we don't have any services, unfortunately, in Singapore. Yeah. So it's basically we help ourselves. So that is why because of the COVID, a lot of my people that I know through my advocacy living with young onset is declining very fast. So that is why I started the Lakopi Limte session, whereby ODD semua get together and then we support each other. We talk it out, and then kalau ada masalah, okay, you bring it up and we talk. And then for other people who have coping it very well, no, then they will provide strategy lah. Ini cara yang saya gunakan dengan ini. So that support. And the other thing is that like for myself is whenever I'm stressed or I sedih or things like that, I will either talk to my younger daughter, who is my primary care partner, or I talk to another person who is living with dementia. So that it's easy for us to explain our feeling to another one who is living with dementia. Because that is why peer-to-peer support group is very important for people living with dementia. So just now at the video on the stigma, all those people are from the peer support group. So we are so used to support each other and talk about it and how living with dementia, how can we continue to live positive, live well, and if we do need help, who can we reach out to? Yeah.
Another question. Apologies if this feels quite personal, but what keeps you going? How to find courage and new purpose in life, and maybe share your hope for the community when it comes to knowing dementia.
Okay. Now, to be very frank, to find the courage is something that is very difficult for kita orang yang young to be diagnosed with dementia. And because we are all at working age, and then a lot of people kena berhenti dari working because they have a diagnosis of dementia. So for me, I was actually, I think about more than half a year. For me, very fast already. Half a year, I was muram, crying all the time, you know, that I no longer able to do things that I want to do because I am a special needs learning advisor, and I tak boleh buat itu, and that is very, very difficult for me. And then that I need to count on my family members. Like I share with you earlier, I'm a book reader. I love to read, and I find myself cannot read, you know. So that is very difficult. But then when you get to see other people living with dementia, boleh, you know, stand up and talk about life and things like that. You say, if they can do it, I must can, right? Because he or she is living with dementia, he and she can do it. Why I cannot do it? So that is where I found Dementia Alliance International. And from that day onward, I make it a point that, you know, I will step up and I will share my story and then help other people newly diagnosed with dementia to find that courage, because courage cannot be found when the person living with dementia is not exposed to another person living with dementia who is living positively. They need to see role model. You know, yeah, orang itu ODD, saya ODD juga. So if that person can do it, tentulah saya boleh. So that is that role model give you that sense of courage and motivation. So I hope that, you know, through this sharing in Brunei, you will have ODD which are able to come forward and step up and start to do the sharing, because that is very powerful. And it is not only help the ODD, but also the care partner to see that, oh wow, this ODD can do it, and this ODD is showing how to live well and positive. I am going to help orang kesayangan saya dengan ODD, how to be able to live well also. Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give to people who are somewhat in denial with young onset dementia?
Okay. Now, that is something that I have been helping to people who in denial. Okay. Now, one thing you need to understand is that if a person is in denial, you cannot come straight on and say, "Hey, doktor sudah cakap na, you are diagnosed with dementia." I tak boleh cakap itu because it is already very hard for that person to accept it. So don't push it on. Try to find out what is that person feeling. Huh? Why is that person feeling so difficult about it? Is it because the person feel very scared? Most of the time is scared lah, ketakutan. To think about you one day will not be able to do things for yourself, to lose the independence, to lose that ability. So that is that fear is the greatest one. So don't push that person to accept the diagnosis, but help that person to overcome that fear by helping him to see how he or she boleh help himself. That is the best way. So when that person is able to start to do things again, they say that, okay lah, not so scary lah, I masih boleh buat banyak thing, although I'm not able to do what I used to do, but I still can do many things. Yeah. And then they will start to see other hope. Bila ada hope, the person will not deny that he or she is diagnosed with dementia. The hope and because of the lack of hope and the fear of knowing that one day you will be totally dependent on people, that makes it very difficult for people to accept the diagnosis.
I think that's all of the questions from the chat. Do any of the audience have any more questions? Okay, I guess not.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Oh, someone asked if we can take a picture together.
Oh, okay. So everyone had to on the video. So I have a chance to see everyone also. Hi, Itnawati, is it?
Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you very much.
I see. Judy, Yaniza, Shaifika, is it? I don't know how to pronounce some of the words already. Nazira. Shafika, okay. Hafiza. And then Bazila. Okay. Then this one is Mai, is it? Mai?
Yes, Mai. Hello,
Yes.
Emily.
Hi. Mai, are you the one that day you are having the online discussion on komunikasi with
Yes.
Dr. Teo? Yes.
Yes.
You are very good, very well informed about dementia. I was just telling my other people living with dementia that Dementia Brunei is very blessed to have someone like you. Yeah. You are, I like, because I tuned in to find out how is to get an idea of what I should share, and through your conversation and sharing, I get to know that, wow, okay, this is very good. I'm very happy that Dementia Brunei have someone that is so knowledgeable and so understanding from the ODD perspective. You are not just as a care partner, but from the ODD perspective. Yeah. Clap hand.
you.
Okay. Then yang ini Nif. And then Shai or Shai what? Macam mana pronounce your name? Saya not very good with my pronunciation nowadays. Nabila, Narawni, Junming, and then Rushdi, Saidi. Okay, having fun with my reading all the names. Yeah.
Okay, should we take a picture? Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2.
One more.
One
Gila-gila warna special punya.
1, 2.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here. And I hope that you have picked up something. And I do really hope that, with Maya, with you people, you can get to have people living with dementia, ODD, to stand up to do the advocacy together with you. Because you already have one care partner that is very well educated in dementia. And so what you need is to have one ODD to work with you, and then you are very good to go. You have a very strong foundation already, Dr. Teo.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your insightful talk.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Emily.
for a very inspiring talk.
Welcome. I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah.
It was a pleasure to have you with us, Emily.
Mm.
Thank you all for attending. We hope you learned and enjoyed this session. More information can be found on our Instagram. So this concludes our session, I guess.
Yes, do keep in touch. And I would love to hear from you, Maya. Of course, I love to hear from Dr. Teo also. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Emily.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Stay
good
healthy and stay
everyone.
safe, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.